Good morning and welcome to How to Do Business with the Government. So this is an introductory government contracting webinar with Norcal PTAC. We're very excited to have the Alameda County Transportation Commission with us as well today. So they'll be presenting on some upcoming contracting opportunities later. This is part of a series, a whole webinar series that we've been doing every month this year. So this is one of the last installations. We've got a couple more coming down the pike for you as well. So you come to the right place if you're looking for some government contracting introduction knowledge. Here's the host and speakers for today. First off is myself. I'll be giving the main presentation. My name is James Forrest. I am a procurement specialist with Norcal PTAC. I've been working with PTAC for coming up on 4 years now, helping out small businesses, trying to figure out how to do business with the government. And so I'm really passionate about our project. I'll talk about PTAC in a moment. Running support today is Amanda Anderson, our excellent program assistant with Norcal PTAC. So we're really happy to have Amanda. And thanks for the help. And we also have kind of a nice surprise here today. We didn't market this ahead of time, but we have a nice treat. Nicole Chang, DBE and LBCE analyst consultant with Alameda County Transportation Commission, is going to be talking a bit later about their agency and what they procure and some opportunities that may be available to you. So if you'd like to introduce yourself, Nicole, go ahead.
Thank you, James. Like James mentioned, I'm with Alameda County Transportation Commission, also known as Alameda CTC or ACTC. I'll be covering certification eligibility requirements as well as upcoming opportunities with the agency, as well as some of our partners up here in Northern California.
All right, thanks, Nicole. I'm looking forward to your presentation and learning a bit more about you guys. All right, so before we move into the main presentation, I just briefly want to touch on what a PTAC is. You'll see in government contracting there's a lot of acronyms going on. PTAC stands for Procurement Technical Assistance Center, and there are a ton. There's 96 in the whole country, and that number fluctuates a bit, and there's 7 in California alone. So on this map here, this colorful map, you can see there's all these different PTACs, plus the American Indian PTAC. That makes it 8, I believe. And they all do the same basic core services. What they do is they help business compete and succeed in the government marketplace. And so everything we do, all of our services are at no cost. We're funded by federal, state, and local grants and contracts, so we can provide these services to you for free. A little fact about PTACs here: in FY21, PTAC served over 56,000 clients and helped them win more than $24 billion in government contracts and subcontracts. So what's our share of that? Well, we are Norcal PTAC, the Northern California Procurement Technical Assistance Center. Oof. And this is our service area. You can see our map on the right. We have these 15 counties in Northern California, including the 9 counties of the Bay Area and then up the coast. And in 2021, our clients won more than $500 million in government contracts. So more than $500 million going into the pockets of small businesses in our service area. So if you're interested in getting some of your tax dollars back by doing business with the government, you've come to the right place. Especially if you're located in our service area, then you can apply for our services. So what sort of services does this PTAC offer? Well, the 3 basic core services. The first is one-on-one counseling. So this is the bread and butter of what we do. So procurement specialists such as myself, if you apply and you're accepted, well, we can schedule a meeting with you to go over just about any of the processes that are involved in selling your goods and services to the government. And so when we say government, it could be local, could be state, could be federal, could be transportation agencies, like at Nicole's here. And so we can just help with just about anything. Market research. I'll talk a little bit more about our services in a second. The second thing we can do is custom bid matching. We pay for a tool, then we offer it to you for free. What the tool does is it goes out on the internet and it scrapes all these different procurement databases, and then it gathers all the opportunities that match the criteria that you work out with your procurement specialist to indicate what you sell. So that's really helpful. It kind of takes some of the guesswork out of searching for opportunities. And the third thing, because you're in a webinar today, is that we like to put on lots of events. So Maybe you don't know how many events we put on, but in many seasons it's averaging just about one per week. We also promote our partners events as well, so please stay tuned for other resources and trainings. Again, these are always free. All the ones we host are always free for you to join. So you've already paid for our services with your tax dollars, so you might as well take advantage. You can sign up for one-on-one counseling services and bid matching at norcalptac.org. And if you're not in our service area, you can find your local PTAC at aptac-us.org/find-a-PTAC. All these links will be clickable when you get the slides later today. And just a quick slide here about PTAC services. We do just about everything as long as it's related to contracting. So we don't help with grants, we don't help with business plans or startups, but really just about anything else. SAM registration, certifications, GSA schedules, how to connect with primes and subs. So just a quick disclosure here. We do our best to make this information accurate. To the best of our knowledge, this is accurate right now. It may change without notice. That's the nature of the game. There's a whole world of government contracting out there, and it's more complicated than any one person has a grip on. And of course, once you think you know everything, something's going to change. So do keep that in mind, especially if you're watching this at a later date. All right, so agenda today. So what's the PTAC program? We've already talked about that. What is government contracting? We're going to get into that. Just kind of a general question. How to determine if selling the government is right for you. So that is a huge question that you want to ask yourself before investing all the time and energy into it. Of course, how to get started. That's many of you are probably wondering what our take on that is. Marketing to the government, that's a key component as well. Where to find bid opportunities and your steps for success. So we're looking forward to the agenda today. So let's just start out on a nice general note. So what is government contracting? Well, I think we understand on an intuitive note, or just from living in a modern society, what the government is. They're tax-funded entities that help run our society. Typically, when people say government contracting, especially in the general kind of culture, they often mean the federal government. But that's not necessarily the case when we're talking today. So as I mentioned before, it could be your school district, it could be BART, it could be transportation commissions, publicly owned utilities, it could be your local city or county. So we help with all of that, and it could be, these are all tax-funded entities. So included in that list would also be Native American tribal governments would fall under government contracting if you're doing business with them as well. So little interesting tidbit about government contracting. A lot more things used to be done sort of in-house by government employees. So in recent decades, there's been quite a rise in the number of services and goods that are not being produced by the government, but actually contracted out, bought from the private market. So just a quick historical example. Back in World War II, they used to build thousands of ships. They had 75,000 workers for instance, in one naval shipyard alone. These were all government employees that were employed to be building ships for the war effort in World War II. Now, these days, ships are pretty much exclusively built by contractors. So, if you're thinking of Lockheed Martin or something like that, for instance, a large corporation which is contracted by the government to build things for defense. So that's kind of the general trend in the last few decades, is that more and more goods and services are not being made by the government themselves and paid by government employees, but contracted out. So even as the size of the federal government grows, more and more of what they do is being contracted out to the private sector. So it's easier for them, for whatever reason, to pay private markets to produce the same things. So this has been true for local as well as state governments too. So if you think of consultancy, a few decades ago, consultancy was not a highly procured topic, and now it is one of the major categories. So it's all coming together. All of this means that there is plenty of opportunity for you, increasing amounts of opportunity actually as a small business to find opportunity here. So this is where your business can step in. So what kind of products and services do government agencies buy? Well, on this slide here, you can see, of course, some images here. On the top left, you have construction. That's a very, very, very common one. A big industry, janitorial, firefighting services. These are kind of core government contracting things. Some of the biggest categories: office supplies. There's a lot of government office buildings around the country. moving services as well. So governments need to move their offices. Canine units need dog food, they need leashes, they need treats and toys and things like that. So that's another procurement sector. The USDA buys food. Prisons buy food. If you grow food, that there may be opportunity in the government for you as well. And this last one's kind of funny. There's actually opportunity if you have a herd of goats. It is not super common. I wouldn't base all your hopes and dreams on becoming a goat contractor, but the government does occasionally buy or rent goats for grazing if they have a lot they don't want to mow for whatever reason, or if it's too difficult to get their mowers and weed whackers in there, they may just rent some goats from you. So the government kind of does buy anything, but we want to take that with a grain of salt because your time is valuable. And if you are in an industry that's really appropriate for government contracting, then that's very different than if you're in an industry where it's going to be more of a struggle. So you kind of have to do a cost benefit analysis and figure out if it's worth your time to get into government contracting. So some of the most appropriate industries for contracting include public works, construction, like we went over, professional services, that includes all kinds of consulting, office supplies, janitorial, IT, medical supplies and technology, transportation and logistics, that's a big one, fire suppression services. So think about everything that the Forest Service and CAL FIRE do when there's wildfires in Northern California. All of us should be familiar with that if you're in our service area. And then, of course, defense is a huge one as well. And there are some less appropriate industries. And so anything federally illegal is going to be an uphill battle for you. But there's also things that are occasionally paid for with tax-funded dollars, but are just less common. So restaurants, bars, entertainment, well-being and holistic health industries, clothing retailers. And just a note on that, so that, clothing, the government does buy clothing, they buy uniforms and things like that, but retail specifically is kind of more geared towards the private sector, and they're usually going to go wholesale with that sort of thing. And then luxury items. And the way these are all great, I purchased some of these things. It's just if you're a tax-funded entity, you have this mandate to be pretty stingy with your dollar. And so you may not want government agencies buying a lot of alcohol from bars, for instance. And that's sort of the reasoning behind it, which is nothing against bars. I think most of us have enjoyed some bars from time to time. So a little example here. This is just one government agency, not even one government agency. This is one location, one site that's run by a government agency, the CDCR, the Pelican Bay State Prison. So what do they procure? So if you look at this example on this slide, you're going to see dozens and dozens of different types of goods and services as well. So what does the government procure? Well, this is just one site. They need USDA foods, they need tires and tubes, laundry services, plumbing, courier services, electrical, data processing, armory, really you name it. If you can imagine, a very small, a small city's worth of goods need to be procured, and this is just one. So part of your job at getting into government contracting is to figure out which agencies buy what you sell. We'll be talking about that more in a minute. So when I say that there's less appropriate categories, there's opportunity for almost everything in government contracting. Some things are procured more and some things are procured less. Okay, so if you're new to government contracting, you may have heard, you may not, or you may have heard the terms primes and subs, prime contractors and subcontractors. But you might not have been clear on exactly what they mean or how the structure of government contracting works in relation to these terms. And so I just want to spend this slide to talk about how it might work. So typically for a large project where there's a lot of dollars involved, something bigger than a small business or a mom and pop shop can usually do, then the government agency will send out an RFP. And if it's in the millions of dollars, or if the scope of work is going to include work that's going to cost millions of dollars for the government, then it usually goes to a large business. Just because, if you're three people, three-person startup with a small production facility, you may not be able to fulfill a bid where you're making thousands of units that's going to charge the federal government or another government millions of dollars. So that will typically go to a prime contractor, which is usually a large business. So that's the prime contractor. The prime has a direct relationship with the government. They're the ones that respond to the bids, put in the bids, and are accepted and have to go through all of that red tape. Now, a subcontractor on these large projects, they don't have a direct relationship with the government. They enter into a relationship with the prime contractors. So there's the government agency, there's the primes, then there's the subs. And the subs are quite often small businesses. And typically this is a way for the government agencies to have their small business quotas met through subcontracting. So quite often a certain percentage of your subcontracts have to be handed out to qualified small businesses. So this is where you may fit in, especially as a startup small business, depending on the size of the project. Of course, you can be a direct prime contractor on smaller projects as well if you're a small business. This is just one typical model for how subcontracting and prime contracting work. So a recipe for success. This is very, very crucial that we go over this step. I love the entrepreneurial attitude of the kind of can do. I want to get out there and win contracts. I believe in myself and my business. I think that that's kind of what our country is built on. I also think that realism is important, and I think that there are a lot of opportunities for success in the private marketplace and elsewhere, and in different government agencies. But you have to be very intentional and judicious about how you spend your time. As a business owner, your time is valuable. So you want to ask yourself, are you ready for government contracting? So here are the basic categories of question that we want to ask. First question we want to ask is, are you an established business? So you have to be at least licensed and registered with the relevant authorities. And it's better if you're fully up and running, if you're getting sales and you've got a history of sales already. So being established is good, and in fact, it's required. The second is a business plan that includes government contracting. So like I said, it's a lot of time and energy to get into government contracting, and it's rare for businesses to find success in this marketplace without being very conscientious about your strategy. So working with somebody who develops business plans or coming up with yourself, you want to see how government contracting might fit in there to expand your business revenue model. Third point is financial stability. So contracting it's an investment. It's an investment of your time, but also your money. So can you afford this investment? It's an important question. Not every investment is a good idea. So government is a reliable payer. They're not going to go bankrupt and ditch out on you, but they don't pay up front. So it's not uncommon for you to not get paid for a contract that you've actually fulfilled the work for to 90 days after the work's done. So the question is, can you afford to pay your employees and front the costs while you wait for that money to come through? It may be a significant amount of money. So that's just sort of how the game works. They don't pay up front. They will pay, but they don't pay up front. And you can also, if you submit an invoice that has some error incorrectly, or submit it in the wrong format, it may be even longer and you may not be notified. So there can be some frustrating elements of getting paid. So you need to have the financial capital to front all that overhead and take that risk. You can also lose money on contracts. This is actually not uncommon for folks that are just kind of starting out. They want to bid low in order to get their foot in the door, to be competitive, and it's hard for small businesses. But then you may underestimate the amount of time and resources it takes to administer and to fulfill this contract that you win. So, we usually think of winning a contract as being a good thing, and it usually is. But if you kind of overstepped your bounds, it may be a bad thing. You may come away with less money after you win a contract. A note on that also is that if you price low when you're starting out, you may be kind of pigeonholing yourself and committing to that price. They may expect that price from you in the future if you're developing a relationship with the government agency. That's something to keep in mind, that you are setting precedent when you're submitting bids and quotes. So past performance or history of sales. As I mentioned, you're going to want some past performance. Government agencies generally have to be pretty picky buyers. They're paying with tax dollars, as I've mentioned, so they need to be careful to get the best bang for their buck, the best value for their dollar. So if you don't have a history of sales, to prove your worth. This is what they want to see, that you can do something like this. So the best thing is if you already have some government contracts. Of course, that's difficult, right? Because if you're just trying to get your foot in the door in government contracting, you haven't had contracts yet by definition. So the second best thing is having some private industry experience. So if you're a new business, focus on private industry first if you're trying to get into government contracting and it's seeming like history of sales is a really important aspect. How will they be assured if you're a good contractor if you don't have any experience? And I guess one way to phrase this is, would you buy something expensive from a business that had never sold anything before? And I think that that's actually pretty rare for us in this day and age to do that. So they want to buy from small businesses, but they also need their value. Market research, this is a very key component here. So ask, what does the government buy? Does it buy what you sell? We went through a little bit of that earlier, but it's a real, you can get really deep into what exactly the government buys. How often do they sell it? Do they buy it every 3 years in a blanket purchase agreement, or is it something that's regularly procured? Where do they sell it? So I live in a rural area, and I support a lot of clients that live in rural areas. It can be difficult if you're in an area where all the office supplies and things like that, and moving services are down in the Bay Area in the Sacramento region. If you are up in Humboldt County or somewhere like that, you may have a harder time finding some of the services, even if it is procured. It's procured somewhere else. So you either have to be willing to drive quite a distance, or you just have to be willing to shift your market plan. So is the market saturated? So if we remember, there's this thing called COVID-19 that happened a couple of years back. In the beginning, they were telling us don't wear masks because there's not enough masks and the medical professionals need it. Hand sanitizer was running out. We had this huge shortage of all these things. Then suddenly all of these businesses came rushing in to fulfill all those needs. And before long, by the time we got to 2021, the market was totally saturated with PPE suppliers, hand sanitation, things like that. And we were getting a lot of applications from clients who wanted to get their foot in the door, but it was a little bit late at that point. The market had already been saturated, and that need had been fulfilled or overfulfilled. So that's another question to ask you. Even if the government does buy what you sell, it buys in your area and it buys it regularly, is it already buying from 1,000 other businesses, and you're going to have a tough time getting your start there? So I hope that this makes it clear that asking this question of market research is really key. Another question you want to ask yourself is whether you want to be a prime contractor and go after contracts directly, which is a whole nother thing, or whether you want to try to be a subcontractor. In that case, your relationship is going to be with a prime contractor company, which is a private entity. So it's still government contracting, but only kind of vicariously through the prime contractor's relationship. That's a very different market research strategy. Last thing on this list is a e-commerce capable website. So we're going to go into this in a moment, so I don't need to talk about this too much. But it's helpful to have a website. I always recommend any business in this day and age have a website. There's a lot of free or cheap options to do that. And then we'll talk about what a government contracting ready website might look like. Okay, so let's say you do all of that and you determine that you would like to do business with the government and you are eligible and all of that. So how would you get started? Well, I mean, you may say that we're biased, but really we are, PTACs are a congressionally designated nonprofit service to help small businesses do exactly this. So we really do recommend that you take advantage of our services. You have to be in business, you have to be in a service area that we cover. You have to be interested in government contracting. But other than that, we really love to help everybody. So first thing you want to do is identify your target agencies. So if you only want to do business with local entities, counties, cities, things like that, there's typically no need to get registered in sam.gov unless they're using federal funds. Dynamic small business search, we're going to go over that in a second. It really can't hurt to do these things, but it may not be necessary. And if you're sure you only want to focus on those smaller agencies. But if a federal opportunity pops up, you might wish that you had already been registered in SAM if it's something that perfectly matches what you do. So choose your NAICS and UNSPSC codes. So NAICS is, these are the codes, the North American Industry Classification System codes that the federal government uses to designate products and service categories. And then the UNSPSC That's the United Nations version of the same thing. Basically, it's just another set of codes that the state of California uses, and quite often local governments will use it as well. You can register on Cal eProcure. So that is the state of California's website on how to, it's kind of their one-stop shop for everything, how to do business with California. So that's how you get registered small business, DVBE certified, go over that in a minute, and how to find bid opportunities, how you do market research on past opportunities as well. And of course, if you're getting into the federal government, register on sam.gov. That's not Uncle Sam or someone's name. That is a system for award management. It is the federal government's version of your one-stop shop for procurement. So same thing, how you get registered, certified, how you find bids. You'll get a UEI number and a cage code from the DLA. That's the Defense Logistics Agency. That's another step you're going to want to do. And then the dynamic small business search. This is a profile that's gonna port a lot of information over from your SAM registration. It's a federal profile. Contractors use this all the time, so they're going to be able to see what you've entered in SAM and then search through all these lists of different small businesses. But the trick is the SAM doesn't port all of the information over, so you're going to want to go back in and fulfill things like your capabilities narrative, which is basically you in your own words saying what it is you sell and why they should pick you, keywords, and your past performance. And then this is really important to create a capabilities statement or a statement of qualification. We'll talk about that in a second as well. And to make sure your website's government friendly, that's another topic we're going to go into. But first, I want to have this example here. I'm going to launch a poll. And the poll says, if price and convenience were not an issue, so if it didn't matter how far you had to drive or what you had to spend, would you prefer to buy from local small businesses, your mom and pop shops, or large businesses like Amazon, Walmart, etc.? That's the first question. The second question, the follow-up question is, how many of you do sometimes, or frequently, or at least sometimes, buy from these large businesses like Amazon, Walmart, etc.? So I'll just keep that open for just a couple more seconds. You can sort of see what I'm getting at here. I would forgive you if you blame me for being a little manipulative in this poll. I'm going to go ahead and end it now. It seems that most of us, 79%, would prefer to do business with the small businesses, right? I mean, I think that's, I see some of you would prefer to buy from the large businesses. There's plenty of good reasons for that as well. It wouldn't matter to some of you as well, or at least one of you. And that's all very fair, but I think it is a commonly held sentiment that we want to support our small businesses. But it's quite often difficult. It can be difficult based on reasons of convenience, and if something's a little more expensive. And so the second question there, how many of you do buy from large businesses? Well, 100% of you answered yes, I do. So that is more or less what you expect. We want to buy from local businesses, but it's not always easy. And so it's kind of the same thing with federal, state, local contracting as well. So imagine that instead of just me being my normal person, James, when I get to make my own decisions and I end up going to Amazon and Walmart 100% of the time for all my business, because instead of having to go somewhere, I can just order it online and I know it's going to be the right thing. It's going to show up on my door in 3 days. Instead, I have a friend or a significant other or someone like that that says, all right, James, 25% of what you order has to go to local small businesses. You can order 75% of things on Amazon, Walmart, and Target. That's fine, but we really, at least some of your dollars have to go to small businesses. So that's kind of an analogy for the relationship of Congress and the federal government. Congress mandates that certain percentage of federal dollars need to go to small businesses. They want to support the mom and pop shops, the local startups, and things like that. It's a big issue in politics. So that's kind of why certifications exist. So how would you prove that you're a small business? And then, so there's size certifications that actually can show the government that you are a small business. And then there's socioeconomic certifications. So historically, Government has decided that women-owned small businesses have been at a disadvantage in government contracting and in the business world. That it's harder for veterans to start businesses and to have success. That there are regions of the country where not enough contracting dollars are going. That it's hard that it's been difficult for minority-owned businesses, for instance, to have success in the government marketplace. And so they have socioeconomic certifications as well, where you can go through a process to prove, hey, look, I have this small business. I'm a woman. I'm a minority. I own this business. We run the company. So just to sort of prove to the government that you are this type of person, and that maybe you could get a little extra help getting your foot in the door with government contracting, and maybe a little more difficult. And so state of California has a few here. They have a small business, SBE, or SB. They got small business for public works, which is pretty much the same thing, but it has a higher threshold. So for all the small business certifications, basically it's saying if you make a certain amount of dollars under a threshold per year in gross annual receipts, then you're a small business, depending on our labor category. In construction, that amount is just higher because construction projects are expensive, and so you need to be a larger business. So a larger business can still be counted as a smaller business. And then the third certification that California has is the DVBE, or the Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise. And so that's for disabled veterans as well. United States federal government actually has a lot more certifications than California. You might notice that there's no socioeconomic certifications on these first three, and that is because it's actually illegal to have contracting preference based on socioeconomic category or race or gender in California. Not so for the federal government. The federal government has lots of different certifications. So the small business, small disadvantaged business, the SDB. It's got woman-owned small business, the WOSB, or the economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business certification. You can see that there are a lot of acronyms, as I mentioned before. So it's a bit like learning a new language. There's the VOSB, veteran-owned small business, historically underutilized business zone, the hub zone certification, the 8A, which is for minority development program, and then the disadvantaged business enterprise, the DBE, which is a bit of an outlier. It's a federally mandated program that's administered by the states individually. So it's a little bit of a hybrid of the state and the federal. So that's just kind of a brief overview of certification. Certifications are really important. They won't get you all the way there for contracting, but they certainly are important. PTAC, we are really passionate about local contracting. We think it's really important for folks not to overlook local governments when they're trying to get into contracting. Don't jump right to the feds for a couple reasons. The first is that, so the federal government is the largest buyer in the world. That's very impressive. And it's if you can do business with the feds, that's great. It's a lot of work. They can be very picky. There's 350 million people and tens of thousands of small businesses in the United States, but imagine in your local city. So I live in Eureka. It's about 25,000 people, just a few hundred businesses. And so if there's a contract from the county of Humboldt or the city of Eureka, it's going to be less competition there. And actually, if you aggregate all together all cities and counties and states, there's far more money in local contracting than in federal contracting. The trick is that there are just thousands and thousands of different agencies that are procuring these things. So it's not just one government entity like the federal government that's procuring these things. You kind of have to go and look in a lot of different places. But it is a great way to get your feet wet for these reasons. There's lots of opportunity, and quite often the contracting dollar amounts are smaller. It's in your community, or it can be in your community, so you can actually meet some of these folks. And the threshold for entry can be smaller. So we're going to hear from Nicole Chang a bit later with the Alameda County Transportation Commission is going to be talking about some opportunities for local contracting. So we really want to put a punctuation mark on this. So as you might be able to tell, this would be a great way of building past performance. And this is assuming, well, this is the case no matter what. So if you want to win more local contracts, it's still the case that you want past performance with other local contracts. You could build your way up to county, to city, and if you want, you could do federal after having more past performance with local contracts as well. So as I mentioned, there's local agencies. There's no unified thing like SAM.gov or Cal eProcure. So they all use their own procurement systems. They're not going to be using those. They're going to be using things like BidSync or Periscope, Planet Bids. These are websites that they use to procure and to post their bids, and where you can register as a bidder and respond. So it does help to have a list of those, and in fact, we've put that together. That link there links to NorCal local agency procurement sites. We've gathered all the ones in our service area, or the major ones, and we've made a list to all the procurement portal websites. Another benefit is that there may be local business preferences. So San Francisco, for instance, has an LBE certification that basically says we want to do business with businesses that are located in San Francisco. And Alameda County has one too. So Nicole's going to be talking about their LBE certification. And so I'll just go ahead and let her talk about that. But basically there's a business preference if you are a local kid just around the block, they want to do business with you. Earlier in the presentation, I mentioned a capability statement. I promised we would return to it. It's also called a statement of qualifications, or SOQ. What this is, and this is crucial, this is a resume for your business. So it's typically you always want it one page, but it can be front and back. So I mean, if it's electronic, it doesn't make a difference, and then that would count as 2 pages. And you want to tailor it to the job that you're trying to get. So very much like a normal resume, as someone who's reviewed a lot of resumes in my time, I know that it's really easy to tell when someone hasn't put that kind of specific thought into their resume and it's just sort of a boilerplate one. So you'll, depending on the agency that you're targeting and the job you're going for, you can change your business resume, your capability statement. And so you'll want to have different ones saved on your desktop. What to include? Brief intro paragraph, just about who you are, what your core competencies are, your differentiators, so what sets you apart from your competition, some key clients, past performance, your bios of some CEOs, executives, owners of your company. Codes and certifications are really important. Get that good boring stuff in there. What's your NAICS codes? What's their UNSPSC codes? See, NAICS is for federal government. UNSPSC codes is for California. So you won't want to include the wrong one when you're getting those together. And contact information, of course, you're going to be emailing this or sending this out to folks, handing it out, and so you want them to be able to get in touch with you. And of course, that good website we're going to talk about in just a minute, and then maybe even some photos to make it look nice, to show what you do, or some of the main personnel in your company. We have an entire webinar on how to write a capability statement. So you can check it out. It's on our webpage, it's on YouTube, and you'll get that link later. How to write a capability statement. And we have a template. We put this together. This has our stamp of approval. Like I said, it's got 2 pages here, got some images you can put in. You can alter it as you'd like. There's also literally thousands of different templates out there. So if you just Google, you can find your own template as well. Contracting ready website, as promised. I want to discuss this real quick. We get a lot of questions about this when we talk about this. So what is a contracting ready website? So first off, you should have a website if you're doing business nowadays. There are very few cases in which you don't need one. Maybe firefighting is some sort of emergency response, things like that might not be as necessary. But so the first thing, you want your website to be updated and relevant to what you do. So keep it updated. It's not a good look when you go to a site and it's out of date. The phone number is wrong. It still has old information on it and things like that. It's a really good idea. This is a real expert move here. It's going to make you look good if you have a government contracting tab, specifically if you're serious about doing business with the government. I'll show you an example in a second. Having a capability statement like we just talked about, having that as a PDF link for downloading, that's also a great move. Government agency representatives, buyers will want to go in and see what you can do. And if they could download this document, it's something that they're used to reviewing constantly, maybe all day, maybe too much, but it's useful for them to see if you can do what they're looking for. Similar to your capability statement, you can have your registrations, your certifications, your codes, most recent projects, past performance, and then just have it all laid out so it's easy to navigate. Thanks to Thomas Burns, another one of the procurement specialists at Norcal PTAC, for putting these examples together, and we kind of collaborated on this. This is just an example. It's not an endorsement of their services, but just an example of what a government contracting ready website might look like. And you see there's a tab here where it says government contracts. Has a company overview, it's got current and previous contracts, and if you scroll a bit down, it has a bullet point that says, to learn more, read our capability statement. And like I mentioned, it's got a link there. So that's nicely laid out. Here's another example from McKinsey. They're a consultancy that does a lot of work. They've got their past clients there with the nice logos and everything. They've got a GSA section. So it's kind of General Service Administration contract. It's a blanket purchase contract vehicle. If you have that, we don't need to get into it right now, but it's a lot of work to get, a lot of work to maintain. You're definitely going to want to advertise it if you have it. And of course, you can see they've listed all the NAICS codes, the descriptions, as well as the numbers. So when a government agency comes in, a representative comes in and sees this, they're going to get the impression that you're serious about doing business with the government. Okay, so marketing to the government. This is very key. I know I say that about everything, but these are all key steps. It's a short presentation. We can't really afford to talk about things that aren't crucial to your success. So developing a marketing plan to target agencies, this is really important. So who buys what you sell? I've mentioned this a couple times. You're going to want to network with government agencies. So that's one thing. Government agencies are employed by the government, of course, and prime contractors are private industry entities. But they're the ones going after the government contracts. And so you want to find out who that is and get in touch with them and introduce yourself. And then other small businesses. So you could do things like joint ventures and teaming agreements to team up. You could also be a prime contractor and be looking for subs, which are other small businesses. So I think it's really important to remind folks, government contracting is technical. There's a lot going on here. But behind all of this, it is humans. Behind all of the procurement databases and websites and certifications, it's people making decisions about who they want to do business with. So a savvy contractor does not forget that, and you make it part of your practice to establish relationships with people. So you attend the expos, matchmakers, conferences, and things like that. Things are getting more in person now. It really is. It's kind of hard to beat the in-person handshaking, eye contact side of things. So virtual is great too. I'm glad you're all here today. Whatever opportunities you can get, please take them. Participate in trainings like you're doing today. Social media, especially LinkedIn, of course, that's probably the best one in the professional world, and the government contracting is no exception to that. Talk to your small business representatives. So you can work with your PTAC specialists to find lists of who your small business reps, advocates, liaisons, folks like that. There are people whose entire payroll is set aside by the government agency they work with to make contact with you, to advocate for you, to liaise with you. And so if you don't know who those are, you're missing out. They want to meet you and you want to meet them. So reach out to them and see what you can do for them and what they can do for you. And then, of course, the dynamic small business search we mentioned earlier, you'll want to fill out your capabilities narrative and things like that. All right, just a couple more slides here. This is the last slide, and we're going to talk to Nicole briefly. We may go a bit over time, so I hope we're able to get through the bulk of the presentation, and the Q&A may go a bit long. But this wouldn't be a good intro webinar without talking about where to find opportunities. So first, like we mentioned, local contracting, don't overlook it. Local agency websites, we have a list there. This is our procurement page for local agencies. There are a lot of them, so you do have to do a lot of combing. Our bid matching service should help with that because it will scrape those and try to find databases, but you can be proactive and go and find them before bid match connects you with them. And bid match may also miss some things, so it's a good idea to do both kinds of work. And there's also prime contractor websites. So as I mentioned, the distinction there, this is going to be a private company website. Cal eProcure, you can find upcoming opportunities or events, as they call them, and then look through there. You can filter by date, you can filter by codes, by keywords, based on what you sell. SAM has the same thing, the System for Award Management. They'll have upcoming contracting opportunities as well as the old ones. So take a look on there. Acquisition.gov is a federal procurement forecast website and just general procurement tool. and associations. So if you're in construction, if you're in consulting, there's all kinds of different fields that will have associations, professional associations based on your industry. This is a great place as well to network and to find what kind of opportunities may be out there, to find primes and subs and things like that. So, for instance, builders exchanges, which we're a member of some of them, and as I've been mentioning, our own bid matching service that we pay for and then offer to you. So if you're a client, you can take advantage of those. All right. As I mentioned, oops, woo, the scroll is very dramatic. As I mentioned, we have Nicole Chang here today from the Alameda County Transportation Commission's local business contract equity program. So, Nicole, we'll give you a few minutes to just give our audience a sense of who your agency is, and what it is you're procuring.
Okay, perfect, James. You can go ahead and click on to the next slide. I want to get into the material and open it up for Q&A. Okay, so a quick overview of the LBCE program, which is the Local Business Contract Equity Program that Alameda CTC manages. It was created to create economic growth and jobs within the county. That meaning that we try and have businesses that are located within Alameda County participate on our contracts. The program is was developed to go ahead and engage the participation of local business enterprises or LBEs, small local business enterprises, SLBEs, and very small local business enterprises, which are VSLBEs. Now, these acronyms are shared with other agencies. So when pursuing procurements, be sure to look at the agency's requirements for county and certified firms. Each agency will go ahead and denote whether or not it's their own program or another agency's program that's being utilized on the procurement. Go ahead and go on to the next slide. So the certification eligibility. Now, for local business enterprises, and the bullets below the LBE banner will also apply to the small local and very small local businesses. So in order to be certified as an LBE, there's no size requirements for that certification, meaning we have very large firms that are LBE certified, like for example, AECOM, Iteris, De Silva Gates Construction. So those are some of the firms that are currently working with us on our procurements. You have to have a business license issued by Alameda County or a city within Alameda County. Be fully located and operating out of a fixed business location in Alameda County. So those large businesses that I mentioned, they have satellite offices within Alameda County. You don't necessarily have to be headquartered within Alameda County to be considered a local business, but you do have to conduct business out of Alameda County. In addition, you have to be economically independent and perform commercially useful functions and have a customer base. So by commercially useful functions, which is a term from the DBE program, it means that you're performing work that your business says that you will perform. Now, for the small local and very small local business enterprise certifications, those are size specific. So you have to have an annual gross revenue, which is average across the 3 most recent tax years, and not exceed the SBA size standards. They recently updated the size standards to be more inclusive. So visit the Small Business Administration's website, which is what SBA stands for, to figure out if your business and the type of work you perform or the services you provide or products you provide fall within those size standards. Now, for a very small local, this is pertaining to very small businesses, meaning that the most 3 recent years, your gross revenue has not exceeded 3.5 million. And that's, again, those are averages across the 3 most recent years. And if you want more details about certifications and the types of documents that will be requested, you can visit our website at alamedactc.org. And then across the menu ribbon, there's a Get Involved drop-down menu, and then you'll go ahead and select Contract Equity. and the certification eligibility requirements are within that web page. Next slide, please. So for the Alameda CTC, this is how we apply goals across our contracts. So we mainly focus on professional services and construction contracts. And so any contract that's over $75,000, there is a 60% LBE requirement, and as well as a 20% SLBE goal requirement. However, firms can also be certified or hold multiple certifications, and you can be counted for meeting both of those goals. So unlike the DBE program, we can double count for different certifications. For professional services over $75,000, there is a 70% DBE or LBE goal requirement and a 30% SLBE goal requirement. For contracts greater than $25,000 and equal to or less than $75,000, there is only a 30% VSLBE for professional services. So as the bullets below mention, you can, if you have multiple certifications, you can count toward meeting multiple goals. And then the last slide. So we have a couple upcoming opportunities. Here's a few of them bulleted out. You can also look at our look ahead, which is at our website. Again, going to that same web page, going to get involved, selecting contracting opportunities. We have a look ahead similar to Caltrans, and we also include other agencies who notify us of their upcoming opportunities. One thing to note is that other agencies do use the Alameda CTC's LBCE program for their procurements. So it'll be clearly noted within the contract, the procurement documentation or solicitation docs that the LBCE program is being used. I'll go ahead and pass it off back to James.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nicole. And I really appreciate you joining. And I think it's a lot of benefit for our audience. You know, it's an intro webinar today, and we're talking about local contracting and some of these things. And then here we have an example of one agency that has this local business preference and that has these contracting opportunities. And this is just an example. Agencies want to do business with you. Many of them have goals. They have certifications. And they have folks like Nicole who are out there looking for small businesses, trying to get the word out to increase their contracting base. So you are not alone. You want to do business with the government. They want to do business with you. And then folks like myself want to help connect the two of you and make sure that that everyone's prepared to do the best job they possibly can. So want to come away with a sense of optimism about this. So here are your 10 steps for success that we want to wrap up with. So first, determine if you're ready for government contracting. We talked about what sort of industries are better suited and a little less suited for getting into contracting. Apply for PTAC services. And again, we're not just biased. We are the PTAC. We are the procurement resource for small businesses. There are others, but we want to connect you with whatever you need, and we're totally free. You can complete the getting started checklist that I mentioned earlier. It's also on our website. Get certified for whatever you are able to get certified for. So if you're a small business, if you're minority owned, if you're woman owned, etc. Create your capability statement, which we touched on. Update your website. And then of course, network, build relations, and market your business. This is most of your time in government contracting. I've heard it said 80% of your time should be spent marketing. And then the other 20% should be spent doing everything else, including trying to, looking on bid websites and things like that. But reaching out and promoting your business should be the majority of your time, actually, the way that you spend your time in government contracting, which is not completely unlike in the private industry either, where a lot of effort should be going into marketing. Locate bid opportunities. That's something we can help with for sure. And then when you find something and you bid on it, you're going to fail probably. I mean, the first time very, very rarely do people win their first bids, but then you're going to try and try again. And after you get the practice, after you get used to responding to RFPs, and you get used to all the paperwork that's involved, you know how to work the system, and eventually you may succeed. And then at that point, you'll be winning contracts, and you'll be a mentor for someone else to get into it as well. So this is kind of our summary of how we think you might have some success, and we hope that you found it useful as well. We want to see you succeed, so that's why we exist. That's why PTACs exist. So please, if you're interested, sign up for our services on our website, norcalptac.org, and we've got a team of procurement specialists here who can help make all of this happen for you. We do have a Q&A coming up. There are currently no questions in the Q&A, so if you have any questions for myself, if you have any questions about PTAC, or good general questions about government contracting that you think will be useful for everyone to hear, if you have any questions for Nicole about Alameda, then please put them in the Q&A right now. But real briefly, while I'm waiting for any questions, I just want to go over some of our upcoming events. Like I said, we're always putting on events, and so we've got a marketing to the government one coming up October 25th. Our procurement specialist is going to be talking about this very important topic, which I have been stressing today, marketing to the government. So please join that. As I mentioned, it's free, 10 a.m. Tuesday, October 25th. And then we have a Veterans Small Business Week series. We've been putting a lot of work into this series, a lot of good panelists and presenters. So if you are a veteran and you're thinking of starting a business, or you do have a business, or you work for a veteran-owned small business, please check out Veteran Certification Overview, October 31st. These are all 10 a.m. panel. We have a panel of veteran women business owners, which is going to be a really great experience. That's on Wednesday, November 2nd. I'm DVBE. Remember, that's Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise Certified Now What? That's a state of California webinar that we put on with them. We have a presenter from them. And then we've got a presenter from the VA who's going to be talking about maximizing VOSB and SDVOSB, and that's veteran-owned small business or service disabled veteran-owned small business opportunities. And that is on Friday, November 4th. So it's going to be an action-packed week. Please tell your friends. If it's not relevant to you, help us spread the word. We want to get as many folks on there as possible. And you can check out all of our upcoming webinars. This is not by any means all of them. We put on dozens and dozens every year, so you can find that on our website. All right, James. And I do not see any questions here in the Q&A.
We do have a few in the chat.
Okay, all right. We'll do the chat as well.
Yeah, so Mona asks, does having 20 plus years of experience in an industry as an employee count towards past performance for a company?
That's a great question. Thank you for that question, because there is, as I mentioned, it can be really tricky trying to get into government contracting if you don't already have all of this past performance for your own company doing government contracting. So as I mentioned, so the best thing for in the eyes of a government agency representative is if you have experience doing a very similar type of government contract before on a similar scale. Second best thing is if you have experience in the private agency, private market rather, doing work of a similar nature. And the third best thing is if in this case for you, if you have experience as an employee working with another company who's done it. So even if your current firm hasn't done all of that, this is still better than nothing. So certainly in the places on your website, your capability statement, and in your conversations, your 30-second elevator speech, you will want to talk about your experience. So leverage whatever you have in order to put your best foot forward and to get that, to build that experience. So yeah, absolutely, that is relevant.
Perfect. And it looks like that is all the questions we have for today.
Okay, all right, if anybody, looks like we got a question.
Just came in.
Just came in, all right. Yeah, well, we can sort of fly by the seat of our pants here, waiting for some more questions. But
yeah, it says, Jenny is talking about some Sonoma County remodeling and construction they do. They work in surrounding counties too, and they're wondering if they would be eligible for LBE in Alameda.
Question for Nicole.
Sorry, I had to find my mute button. So for your business, one question to start with, even if you have any type of local presence, meaning it could even be as far as someone's home, but a business license needs to be assigned to that address for the company. And the LBE program, it is up to, let's say, for example, you're pursuing work with Sonoma County. It would be up to Sonoma County to decide whether or not to utilize Alameda CTC's LBCE program. We do flow funds to other agencies, and that's when the LBCE program may be utilized, or they can opt to use their own local business program. However, when we do flow funds down, they have to use one option or the other. They cannot completely opt out of a local business preference program. So if you are interested in pursuing certification, we do have a general inbox. I'll go ahead and put that into the chat. And so if anyone else is interested in pursuing certification, you can send an email to that email address, and it will be directed to the entire team who can go ahead and answer any specific questions you may have regarding pursuit of certification with our agency.
Great, thanks, Nicole. Another way to interpret that question is, do I remember earlier you mentioned that you didn't have to be in Alameda County necessarily? It could be in a surrounding area. Is that true, or did I mishear that?
So headquartered. You don't necessarily have to be headquartered, a satellite office.
Okay.
So you do have to have a business location within Alameda County.
Okay, all right. So it is specific to Alameda. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I hope that's clear. Any other questions while you have us here? Looks like it is just a couple minutes past the hour. So if you have any more questions, feel free to email us, info@norcalptech.org. Better yet, if you're not a client yet, please apply for our services if you're in our service area in Northern California. Anywhere in the Bay Area, you're going to be eligible. And then if you are a client, please reach out to your local procurement specialist. If you apply, you can request to work with me if you'd like. We look forward to seeing everyone at future webinars and in our client intake queue. And again, thanks so much, Nicole Chang, for joining on short notice, and really appreciated having you here as a really solid example of a local agency who's looking to do work with some small businesses out there.
Thank you, James, for having me.
All right, and have a good day, everyone.
Have a good one, everyone.
Thanks.